Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. So for today's Get Ready With Me, we're going back to Paris. But before we go any further, let's take a second to grab our iced coffee or a hot coffee. Let's take a sip and let's get started. As many of you know, I now have an online beauty consulting service, which is where you get to talk to me virtually one-on-one and get my undivided attention. You get to pick my brain about any beauty concern you might have. So if you want to make the appointment, click the link in the description box down below. So in this Get Ready With Me Pretending We're in Paris series, we've explored some different neighborhoods, but today we're going to go to one of my personal favorite neighborhoods. This is where I like to stay the most when I visit Paris. This is on the right bank, and this is Montmartre. Now, as usual, all the makeup and brushes that I used today will be listed in the description box down below. I'm feeling very Parisian. I'm feeling very inspired by Paris and the entire Parisian aesthetic, so that's what we're going with today. I'm starting with a Chanel Stylo Ombre Contour. This is number 19, Beige. And we are just going to apply this liberally all over the eyelid and then blend. So Montmartre is on a hill. It's basically all hills. I certainly hope you packed some comfortable walking shoes because we will be getting all of our steps in today. Montmartre is known for its vibrant artist community. It has had artists for centuries, probably longer. It's also known for its very active nightlife and the basilica, the Sacré-Cœur. If you have ever watched the French film, The Fabuleux Destin d'Amélie Poulain, the Amélie movie, that entire movie is based or set in Montmartre, and they actually used different cafes and grocery stores in Montmartre. So if you rewatch that film before visiting, you may recognize some landmarks. And you can in fact visit the Amélie Cafe. In the movie, she frequents a cafe a lot. I think she works in a cafe, or her friend does. And you can actually visit this cafe. I've gone before. It's very lovely. I had a hot chocolate, and I think it's called liégeois. That's when they add a big dollop of whipped cream. You can get this on coffee or hot chocolate. It's delicious, definitely worth it. Now, is a hot chocolate with whipped cream very decadent? Of course, but I don't think I can overestimate or underestimate, I don't know the expression, but you don't quite understand how many steps we're getting in. There are literal steps everywhere. As I said, this neighborhood is basically just a giant hill in every direction. So sometimes Google Maps might tell you that your next destination is only 500 meters away, but it's a staircase. It's very frequent that you will just encounter a staircase with 200 steps, and that's the only way to get to somewhere. That's Montmartre. So enjoy your hot chocolate with whipped cream. I know I certainly will. The inside of the cafe looks a little bit different than the film, and it is a little bit pricey compared to like a cafe down the street, but if you just want to relive a fabulous Amélie moment, I think it's worth it. Now, another big thing that Montmartre is known for is the nightlife, and it's particular. So in this neighborhood, this is where we have the Moulin Rouge. You know the film, the one with Nicole Kidman. This is this famous and sometimes infamous cabaret burlesque house. I suppose it's more cabaret than burlesque now, but it's certainly had some salacious moments in history. The Moulin Rouge was originally built in 1899. It burnt down during the First World War, but it was rebuilt. And what's interesting is the Moulin Rouge originally was part of the red light district. And when you go to the Moulin Rouge, this literally translates to the red windmill because Montmartre used to have tons and tons of windmills because it's all on hills. And this area of Paris a few hundred years ago. These parts of Paris were more farmland because the center of the city was in the center and Montmartre was spread out and hilly. And so they had more vineyards out there and they had windmills, and it was almost more like farmland. And you can still, in fact, visit the Moulin Rouge. I personally have not gone in to see a show. I think as we speak, it's temporarily closed, but will be open again. So you can go for a matinee or an evening show, and the evening show is quite late, of course. It's more of a cabaret show than pure burlesque. I think at the time it was more burlesque and more of a striptease, and there is some striptease element to it, so it's not like fun for the whole family, if you know what I mean. It's a little bit more mature, obviously. And if you go to this area, I forget the name of the street where the Moulin Rouge is, it is still currently active, a red light district. So just be aware. I mean, if you're not approaching anyone, people will leave you alone. This is specifically in the evening, like late at night. My husband and I accidentally walked through that part one night, and if you don't try to solicit anyone, they tend to leave you alone. Just so you know. So yes, there are two shows, the matinee and then the evening, and you can pay a ticket for dinner and a show because they do have that option. So if you want a full meal, you can also buy a ticket for the show and a bottle of champagne. I believe there are tickets solely for the show. I have not gone yet because the show is incredibly expensive. I would like to go one day. I think it would be fun to visit to see the can-can dancers. It's the birthplace of the can-can dance. Oh, by the way, this is a liquid eyeshadow from Violette FR. The shade is called Cuivre de l'Aube. So it would be fun to visit. I definitely think it's something that I want to see eventually. If you are visiting Paris for the very first time, I don't necessarily think it's something that you should see right away, unless, you know, this is your passion in life and you've been waiting your whole life to see this show, because these tickets are so expensive. I'm saying like they start at around a few €100. That's where they start. That's before, I think if you want dinner, it's maybe 300 or 400 euros per person, not for two people, per person. So it is quite pricey. I certainly hope the dancers get paid well. So I do want to see this one day. I haven't gone yet. You can see why. You know, there are amazing restaurants in Paris that cost less than 400 euros per person, but one day I will go. But I would love to hear from you if any of you have visited Paris and went to the Moulin Rouge and saw one of the shows, because I'm certain it's wonderful and fabulous and definitely a spectacle. It's just a bit pricey, but let me know if you've gone and let me know if you would like to go, because I suppose we can always get a ticket and go see that tonight for dinner and a show. It'll be late though, maybe like 9 or 11 p.m. So it's France. We eat late here. I'm going in with a bit of lip balm. This is the Givenchy Rose Perfecto. It's like a tinted moisturizing lip balm. And to complete the eyes, I'm going into my Volume de Chanel mascara. So the Moulin Rouge is very easy to spot because it's a giant red windmill, but it's also next door to metro stations, which is very important. Now, when we are visiting Paris, I hope you don't presume we will be taking cars or taxis everywhere. In a big city like Paris or New York or even here in Montreal, we take the metro. It's the easiest way to get around unless you want to be stuck in traffic for 4 hours. For the foundation, I'm going into my DiorForever Skin Glow. So our next destination, we will arrive by metro. Please remember to keep your metro ticket because you actually need it to swipe in and swipe out. If you throw it when we're on the train, you may have to jump over those turnstiles. So I'm not really acrobatic. I don't know if you are. So we're going to a few metro stations over, and we're going to go visit the Basilica, the Sacred Heart Basilica, the Sacré-Cœur Basilique, whatever you want to call it. It's beautiful, and it's also one of, I think it's the highest point in the entire city of Paris. You get magnificent views. So the closest metro station to this basilica is Abbesse. Now, I am all for taking the stairs. I am all for getting our steps in for the day. However, we definitely should take the elevator. I'm taking the elevator at Abbesse. I will not walk up the stairs because Abbesse is very, very, very deep underground. I think it's 36 meters underground, which I think is well over 1,000 feet underground, which means that's 1,000 feet of steps to walk up. And you're going to, I mean, if you want to take, I have taken the steps in the past. I did it by accident. You know, you get off the metro, you see the stairs, you just run up the stairs. And then after several flights, you just start to wonder, how much longer is this going? And the answer is forever. I don't know how many steps there are, a few hundred, several hundred, I don't know. It's a lot. I have done those stairs in the past by accident because you'll notice that there are elevators in Paris, not that many. It's not the most accessible city, but usually there is no lineup for the elevator. At Abbesse, there is always a lineup for the elevator, and it's worth it. I mean, if some of you want to be brave, we will see you at the top because, as I mentioned, Montmartre is on a hill. There are stairs everywhere, so even if we take the elevator here, we will be climbing stairs afterwards. But if you want to be brave, go ahead. We will see you in several minutes. As far as French history goes, the Sacred Heart Basilica is actually fairly new because it was built in 1919. But this site in particular on this hill has been known as a place of worship for a long time. I'm talking about the Romans, even the Druids used this spot as a place of spirituality, a place of worship. So even though the basilica itself is new, this spot for prayer, for worship, is quite ancient. Oh, did I mention there are also steps to get up to the basilica as well? So those of you who took the steps at the metro station and who took the steps at the basilica, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you want another hot chocolate with whipped cream on top? I know I do. Let's go in with a touch of concealer. This is Clé de Peau. This basilica is absolutely stunning. You can take so many wonderful photos, and it really just gives you the most beautiful panorama of the entire city of Paris. So take some time, take a breather. We're at the top of the hill, but we have to go down again. Now, I know that Montmartre is known for the basilica, for its nightlife, but it's also really known for its art and also its vineyard. So as I mentioned, this used to be farmland with the windmills and vineyards. I think there's only one vineyard left in Montmartre at the moment, and this is called the Montmartre Vineyard. And it's not open to the public, but you can walk around the periphery, and it looks like a vineyard in the middle of a city. So it's quite extraordinary. And this vineyard here produces mostly red wines. I think they create about 27 varieties of wine from this vineyard. It's mostly red, but they do have a couple whites as well. I think Riesling and Sauvignon. So maybe if you're buying wine at your local wine store one day and you see something from the vineyard of Montmartre, it's from this vineyard here. And there's also a harvest festival in October every year where you can have samples, and it's a giant feast really of wine and food and all the great pleasures in life. And it's a wonderful festival to attend. It's lots of fun. I don't think they let you stomp on the grapes like they might have done in olden days, but it's still a fun festival. And I really like Montmartre because I know it's in Paris, it's in this giant city, this ancient city, but it feels like a real neighborhood. It feels vibrant, it feels like it has lots of culture, and it's very unique to itself with the food and the culture and all its festivals. It doesn't feel as much like a giant city like other parts of Paris. I'm just going in with a bit of face powder now. This is the Chantecaille Eclat Doux, just to buff and blur a little bit. Now, the last part that Montmartre is known for is the art. Its art scene. This has had a vibrant, decadent art scene for centuries. This has been known as the place for artists. I mean, I think Paris in general has been known as the place for artists, but Montmartre in particular. I'm taking a bit of my Givenchy bronzer here just to add a bit of color. So there's a neighborhood in particular, I think it's a square. It's called Place du Tertre, and this is where all of the artists have always congregated. If you imagine Paris bistros, cafes with artists with their little easels painting and doing drawings, you are picturing this square in Montmartre. I know it's a hard word, Place du Tertre. We can write it on the screen because I know it's a little bit tricky, but this is where the artists have congregated for centuries. If you go there live, you will see painters with easels painting the city. They will be painting people. It's live art. And it's not just painters and people who draw. There's also singers. People like Edith Piaf used to just roam around Montmartre, and she used to perform and busk for a few cents. And you still see that. You still see live performances, people just singing, playing instruments for a few dollars. This is where the artists, the starving artists, go. Not only do artists go here to paint and to meet up and talk to each other, but they also create art here. They also live there as well. There have been countless famous artists of every genre who have had studios and who've lived in this little square. I'm going into a bit of blush. This is my Hermès Rose Abricot. So the artists may have not always lived in that square, but maybe a street over. I'm talking Monet, Picasso, Dali, Modigliani, Renoir, Degas. Did I say Degas? Like, they've all lived there. They've all sat in those cafes. They've all talked together. And even Vincent van Gogh had a studio and apartment, you know, a very small one, poor starving artist, a few streets over. So this is just where they all met. There's even a famous painting by Renoir about an area called Moulin-la-Galette. Again, moulin means windmill. And it was this area where people would meet for dances, for drinks. And if you see the painting, I swear you can hear the laughter and the talking and the drinking and the merriment. Today, this is a restaurant, so you don't have the exact same park and garden and tavern that there used to be, but you can still go eat there. It's a little bit pricey, but I think it's worth it because you get to be part of living art and living history. There's also a very famous artist from this area. Well, he himself is not as well known as Renoir or Picasso. His name is Toulouse-Lautrec. However, his work is very famous. You may not recognize his name, Toulouse-Lautrec, but you've seen his work, you've seen his art, and you definitely know his work. When the Moulin Rouge was opened, he was commissioned to create the posters and the artwork to promote it throughout the city. He was known for painting scenes of everyday life and just real life in Montmartre. And you may not recognize his name. I didn't recognize his name until I was doing research, but you know his work. You've seen it before. You recognize it. For the lip, I'm going into my Violette FR Pétale Bouche. This is a liquid lipstick and it looks like a crushed dark red rose petal. This dark red lip with a dark red manicure. It's not the exact same shade, but to me, this screams very Parisian. I am ready to go to the Montmartre Wine Festival in October. I think this is very autumnal. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to travel. And I'm ready to be at a food and wine festival in the fall. Before I finish my look, I have to add a bit of fragrance. This is the Givenchy Interdit Eau de Parfum Intense. This is a very gourmand fragrance, lots of vanilla, tonka bean. I swear there is some star anise in here, a hint of maybe sesame seed, but you really get like a black licorice scent, which I enjoy. So it's very decadent. I am ready for fall and cooler weather, as you can tell with this whole look here. I certainly hope that I gave you inspiration and a desire to visit Montmartre. I think it's just a wonderful neighborhood. It's lively, it's alive, there's so much culture and there's so many people. When you go there, you get the sense that people who live there live there. They're not tourists, they're not visiting, that's where they live, that's where they've lived for generations. It's just a great neighborhood. There's lots to see, of course, and I barely scratched the surface with recommendations of places to go and things to see. And if you have an appreciation for art, for culture, for history, for anything like that, this is definitely a neighborhood for you. I know it certainly is for me, and regardless of how many times I visit, I never get enough and I never get bored. There's always more to see. You know, I think Hemingway described Paris as a movable feast, and it's correct. There's so much. Now, if you are tired and need some rest, we can go to dinner. There are 2 restaurants that I can think of that are both downhill from the Sacred Heart, so rest assured. There's one called Le Petit Canard, which is basically everything is duck themed. There's duck in everything, so if you like that, you might like this restaurant. And there's also Le Jardin d'en face, which is another fabulous French restaurant. I personally think I will go with Aligot, which is basically, if you imagine mashed potatoes and cheese fondue had a baby. It's a potato puree with cheese. So as you pull a bite of potato, like mashed potato, it's mixed with cheese in this magical concoction, and you get this most amazing cheese pull. That's what I'm having for dinner. Let me know what you want to order and I can order for you. I certainly hoped you enjoyed today's trip with me to Montmartre. I don't know what there isn't to love about this neighborhood. You could be sitting in a cafe and become someone's muse. They could be painting you on their easel across the corner. You know what I mean? Like, it's just such a beautiful place. So I hope you liked it. Hope your feet aren't too sore. Make sure to rest up, because next time we will be going to a different part, and we may actually leave Paris next time. We may go to Normandy, which is where I used to live. So if you'd like to explore Normandy with me, let me know in the comments. If you're new to my channel, I talk about nothing but luxury beauty, and I certainly have a passion for it. So if you are not subscribed already, I highly encourage you to just hit that subscribe button. That's a great way to encourage me here on my channel. All right, guys, I think this is all I have for you for today. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.